Tactician Difficulty, no armor, ridiculous strategies, Krieg the Psycho, Salami. This video has it all because my first playthrough is a roleplay of how Krieg the Psycho would play Baldur's Gate 3. Krieg is a character from Borderlands 2, but don't worry if you aren't familiar with Krieg because he's going to both show and tell you exactly who he is. For example,
over here, my sweetmeats, your Prince of Justice and Genocide has something to say. Gone are the days of the tentacle, and the age of the gods, and mercy is far away. We are fighters of the middle, the second act in a 3-part meat play, and I will win Best Supporting Actor!
So yeah, what I heard is that Krieg wants to beat his enemies to death with salami. Throughout the video, I'm going to play Krieg's voice lines to add a little flavor to my character.
I'm gonna kill you all. I'm gonna kill your friends and your family.
But real quick, let's go over some basics. First, nobody in my party will be wearing chest armor because
my pecs have pecs!
For weapons, I'll only be equipping salami once I find enough. I'll also be throwing things directly out of my inventory, any improvised weapons I can find, and it wouldn't be Krieg without some fire and explosions.
Explode!
Krieg is going to be the Dark Urge, but just like in Borderlands, Krieg desperately wants to control his impulses because he doesn't want to harm innocents. So I'll never give in to an urge that will obviously result in the death of an innocent. But otherwise, I'll give in to pretty much as many impulses as I can. For dialogue options, I'm going to lean heavily towards the most inappropriate or absurd thing my character can say in the moment.
Your liver is a hood ornament!
For information about spoilers, check the pinned comment. And if you're comfortable with that, then sit back, relax, and strap into your meat bicycle because, just kidding, there's no seatbelts on meat bicycles. Character creation for Krieg was pretty simple. Barbarian. And I tried to model his guardian after somebody that was important to him in the Borderlands universe. We woke up on a strange ship and we have been infected with a mind flayer parasite, which is going to turn us into a mind flayer if we can't find a way to get rid of it. But more importantly, we gotta ditch these clothes. They're too scratchy, they're restricting my movement, and I just can't have it. And I'm not gonna need this weapon either. Krieg wanted his party members to be just like him, so they're also going to ditch their armor and weapons. For Krieg, this isn't too big of a deal because as a barbarian, he has unarmored defense. But for everybody else, they're going to be getting hit quite a lot. With the ship completely out of control, all we had time to do was yell,
"You make me vomit!"
before getting conked on the head and waking up on the beach. The first thing I did is go look for some friends, and the first friend we found is Shadowheart. Shadowheart got ready for combat, and we headed off to fight some intellect devourers and look for more friends. Without any weapons, it actually took a while, and we took a lot of damage, but we managed to take care of them and get to level 2. I'm going to respec my characters later, but for now I'm going to keep all of them in their starting class. And just so you know, Shadowheart isn't allowed to use any offense-based magic, anything that does direct damage to enemies. A little further down the road, we came across Astarion, who's going to be our third party member, and he is a rogue. He took one look at our outfits and he could tell something special was happening here, so he stripped down and we're ready to move to the next party member. Our final party member was in a bit of a bind, but we shouted something crazy and managed to get her captors to leave.
Nipple salads! Nipple salads! Nipple salads!
He's right. Let's go.
After throwing various objects at the bottom of the cage, I managed to break it and free Lae'zel, which completed our party of psychos. We have a barbarian, a cleric, a rogue, and a fighter. Now, we might have a full party of psychos, but we haven't actually found any weapons to use yet. Without any actual weapons, we started the fight off by pushing goblins off of the high ground so we could take it for ourselves. Krieg is pretty capable of fighting with just his fists, but Astarion, on the other hand, doesn't have a lot of options, so he's just hucking barrels and crates from up on the high ground, trying to get as much bludgeoning damage as he can. Lae'zel's pretty strong, and she can also go and do some punching as well. Not as well as a barbarian, but it's definitely no joke. Shadowheart tried to use some magic to command the big boss guy to drop his weapon, but that was a total fail. But thankfully, we were able to take the fight out without too many casualties from the Druid Grove. And it's not our fault that they're dying. Just because we refuse to use weapons doesn't mean they need to be incompetent in combat as well. After barraging our foes with barrels from above, we finally managed to clear out the fight, pretty much just by surrounding the boss and slugging it out.
Yes, 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 yes!
While chatting with NPCs in the Druid Grove, I started to have some invasive thoughts.
Best to fill your belly now.
Pounds of flesh!
See how you feel when your pack is empty.
Maybe I can control my urges better if I talk to a sweet old lady instead.
If it isn't the talk of the camp.
I've got a spot for you in my liver.
Oh, you cheeky pup! That might scare someone else. But I know what naughty boys need. A bit of love and care. Take care now, sweetie.
Aw, she was such a nice lady. I hope I see more of her later. I met one more NPC before heading out.
Dance upon the stars tonight.
This is my favorite song. Dance to the drum beat of the ballistic, fetishistic, sadistic pistic.
But for some reason, all I wanted to do was smash her loot on the ground. But I was a little too slow.
You horrid, horrid beast! What is wrong with you?
The little part of me that was still sane was thinking,
Dude, what are you doing?
alright, so hanging out with civilized folk didn't really work, so I might as well go take my anger out on some grave robbers. I started by chucking a chest at that concrete and just smashing the first two of them to death instantly. Then I headed over to try and shove this guy off of his box, but I was still fantasizing about smashing that loot and I got distracted and failed to shove him off the box. Lucky for me, Lae'zel saw what I was going for and she finished the job for me. Now our enemy is in the perfect position to barrage by throwing any manner of thing down on him that I can possibly find. I finished him off by throwing a short bow at him and conking him on the head, before running around and getting behind the other one and shoving them down too so we could give them the same treatment. The fight was wrapped up, but I was still pretty heated, so I decided to see if I could find some more grave robbers.
Have you give a look? Everything all right out there?
I'm gonna kill you all. I'm gonna kill your friends and your family. I'm gonna track down your grandparents and turn them inside out.
Yeah, I've got plenty more friends. Come in here and you can meet them.
Such a friendly invitation, but he left the door locked, so I had to find my own way in. When I got there, he was true to his word, and he let me meet all of his friends, all blocking the only doorway out of the room I had jumped into. I was definitely in a bit more of a precarious situation than I was expecting here. I pulled out a void bulb, which I'd collected on the Mind Flayer ship, and it pulls everybody in unless they make a strength saving throw, and the only one that made the saving throw was the one with the torch, which is kind of unfortunate because I was hoping he would blow up the oil. But that's okay, because that's what candles are for. Now that I've got everybody lit on fire, I decided I would throw a spiked bulb and make them bleed as well. Then I headed back into the room, threw a chest in front of the doorway, shut the door, and just let them roast for a while. My enemies couldn't get into the room I was in because the chest was blocking the doorway, and I opened the door every so often to throw some more grease on the fire so I could keep them all roasting. Eventually, I got them low enough that I was able to start taking them down.
Stop screaming!
But one of them got clever and actually managed to find a way into the room. So we went ahead and surrounded him and just beat on him over and over again until he was down. But he definitely got a lot of good hits in on Asterion. We finished the fight up and got back on the road. During our travels, we came across this mysterious looking portal thing, so I decided to go and check it out. And surprisingly, a hand shot out of it and a voice was asking for help.
A hand? Anyone?
Grind the cartilage!
This branch of flesh is begging to be pruned.
My mistress' eyelids! Stop! Cease, you loon!
So I have this in my inventory now. Krieg doesn't like to see innocent people get hurt, so when he saw a bugbear assassin sneaking up on one of the NPCs of the Druid Grove, he couldn't help but step in and protect them. That's just the kind of guy that Krieg is. He always wants to make sure that innocent people aren't harmed and that everything is going well for them, and that's the person he's going to continue to be no matter what happens. Everybody has dark thoughts sometimes, but Krieg isn't going to let those dark thoughts define him. And he's proud to say that even when his thoughts get out of control, he never acts on them. They just live inside him as a memory of something that he could have done. They're simply dark urges that he resists at every turn, which is why Krieg knew exactly how to handle the situation when he saw a child in danger.
A death viper. You've milked their poison before. A single drop of it could kill that child in a heartbeat. Should the child struggle, it is poised to strike. The death of a child, a timeless tragedy that never grows old.
If the child moves, Krieg knows that she'll die, and this gives Krieg's saner side the ability to act. Let's check his backstory.
If you ever kill an innocent person, I will destroy us. Oh, shut up! No, that's the deal. You can kill as many of the deserving as you like, but the second your axe touches the flesh of an innocent, I'll end this.
Her life matters more than satiating your dark fantasies. You focus, and they're gone.
Murder for my little one! Now you should be scared!
And just like that, Krieg saved the life of a child.
Very well.
Back on the road, I came across some true souls that were tending to their wounded friend. I actually just told them the truth, that I was a survivor of the crash, and they did not like that and tried to attack and kill me. But it turned out this was the best possible thing that could have happened right now. After I was done smashing them on the head with boxes and my fists,
Danger, danger!
I looted their bodies and I finally found what I've been looking for.
A golden mallet for the meat pounding! Who wants the first slice? Get over here and smell my meat! Don't make this weird!
I headed into a town, but there were some goblins preparing an ambush for me, so I ambushed them instead. I still only have one Salami Club, so I had everybody head up to the rooftop so we could have a height advantage. I shoved the goblins off the top of the roof so that we could have it all to ourselves, and then got right back to the usual, hucking boxes, barrels, weapons, anything I could find. Astarion has a pretty good dagger collection going at this point, so he's mostly been throwing daggers. But Shadowheart and Lae'zel are still just chucking crates and barrels. I tried throwing a shield with Shadowheart and it actually seemed kinda great. It got like stuck over the top of the goblin and I don't know if it did more crush damage than something else would, but it felt like it did. Down in the cellar of one of the houses, there were all these crates that I, just had to open. And inside the first crate, there was a undead skeleton who went and freed another undead skeleton, who went and freed another undead skeleton. Pretty soon there was a whole skeleton army that was chasing me, but it wasn't in too much trouble because I just led them back to this bookcase door and I just hit the lever to close the bookcase, and anytime I wanted to, I could let in one or two and fight them, or I could open the bookcase and throw out a couple attacks and then shut it again, and there's nothing that they could do about it. Shadowheart's spiritual weapon was actually even able to get some hits in from the corner. Once the fight was pretty much under control, we headed out to finish off the rest of them, and it is time for a long rest.
I'm so glad I found... Wait, it's me. It's Althera from the Grove. Oh. We met in the Grove? I heard what you did, how much you helped us. You've... well, inspired me. I want to stand on my own 2 feet.
You open your eyes with a lurch, and you are not in your bed. You stand above a body which is in a state of gore nearly beyond recognition. The body of that brave girl who earnestly swore to devote her life to your cause. Her blood covers you, and its warmth feels like the embrace of an old friend.
If I harm an innocent person, kill me. I can't see her anymore. She was so clear and bright. The blood is in my eyes, and now I can only watch the ocean of blood. Its waves crash against my forehead again and again, and I just need to learn how to surf!
Hello, Petal. You'll have to stop by my house, just at the edge of the forest.
That Ethel is such a nice lady, but on my way to find her house, I came across a couple of ogres. They looked pretty strong, but I decided to just walk in there.
Be you friend or food?
Meat!
I barely managed to convince them that I'm not meat, although I sure do enjoy it.
Food? No, not food.
How can I snap your neck if you don't have one?
Very terrifying stuff, and I just barely managed to convince them that I was very dangerous and that they should join me.
Take my bone horn. One blow and the ground will quake with my family name.
I kind of forgot about Ethel and just explored around and heard weird noises in a barn, and I found a bugbear getting intimate with an ogre.
What the hell are you doing?
Krieg doesn't really have a problem with this, but the intrusive thoughts won, and I had to say something inappropriate.
Little man, you're in my spot!
Ruined. Smash! Oh, smash you!
But to no surprise, I ended up being the one doing the smashing, because my party members were just throwing things off the roof. We took a little bit of smashing back, not gonna lie about that one. But in the end, they weren't able to handle the power of throwing random crap off the roof. And after you say something that inappropriate and kill an ogre's smash piece, there's not really any way to cool down the situation. So for their own good, we had to put them down. It's for the best, you understand. At least the ogre got one last meat pounding before her tragic end.
Bathe in the meat chunks!
It was looking like we were going to be pretty outnumbered at this windmill fight, so I had Shadowheart cast Sanctuary on Krieg before sending him into the fight alone. I've already been slaughtering goblins all over the village, so I don't think they were interested in chatting with me. But because I cast Sanctuary on Krieg and they didn't have any other targets, there is nothing that they could do on their turns. I guess they didn't have any area of effect spells or anything like that, but they really just stood there yelling things at me, so it made it extremely easy for me to prep the battlefield in my favor. That being said, Krieg did start to get a little frustrated with the lack of action.
Why aren't my fingers in someone's eye sockets right now? Why aren't my fingers in someone's eye sockets right now? Why aren't my fingers in someone's eye sockets right now? Why aren't my fingers in someone's eye sockets right now? Why aren't my fingers in someone's eye sockets right now? There's no barbecue till I say there's a barbecue.
Which was now. The barbecue was now. He says there's a barbecue now. And so we threw an oil barrel onto this group over here and pretty much wiped out the entire fight in one beautiful, giant, explosive turn. Since there was a barbecue, I cooked up my salami and it was a treat for the last surviving goblin. I'm not sure why, but I decided to go back into the room where I met those ogres and recruited them, and I was searching all the barrels, and I found in the corner, salami.
The bloody gluttons won't feed on you today.
So I decided to send this one over to Lae'zel so that she has a weapon and can actually use her paddle maneuver abilities now.
Love you.
Beautiful. She can actually trip people and push them. I saw Ethel getting accosted by two mean men. How dare they come after a poor, sweet old lady. However, Krieg actually noticed that she was lying and she was in the wrong in this situation.
Thank goodness you're here, sweetie. I don't know what's come over these boys.
Auntie Ethel's face creases with false concern.
Gotcha!
Bollocks.
But before I can go deal with her, there was this fight that I took with a bunch of mud mephits, and it was kind of a mess. So I'm just gonna have my cheese dragon go and shoot a fireball at it, and we're gonna say that that's the fight. And when the dust clears, we're gonna open the loot up because I got a twisting branch, and it has the exact same stats as salami. So I decided to give it to Shadowheart as a placeholder until we find more salami. But yeah, this fight was just a mess, and it was kind of boring. So it's really not much of a loss to skip. After that fight, I took a long rest and I had a visitor in my sleep who gave me this cloak that makes it so that after getting a kill, you turn invisible for 2 turns, which is really cool. I decided to give it to Asterion, and he also has these boots that make it so when he dashes, he gets lightning charges that do extra lightning damage on his attacks. And as luck would have it, I have found my 3rd salami now. We are really pushing forward in salami all of a sudden. So I had Shadowheart dual wield twisting branches, and then I gave the 3rd salami to Krieg so he can dual wield. In a chest, I also found these lightning gloves, which make it so unarmed attacks give you lightning charges. And with that, I was finally ready to take on the hag.
You'd best have one hells of an apology for me, young man.
Shut up!
How shocking. Another barbarian with all brawn and no brains. You want to play the hero so badly? Fine. Let's make this interesting.
This is gonna get ugly.
A bunch of redcaps showed up to help the hag, and she turned invisible, so I couldn't really try and fight her anyways. I tried to have Shadowheart use command drop to make them drop their weapon on the ground, but I failed. Astarion is throwing daggers, and they're doing a little bit of lightning damage now, which is really cool. Lae'zel can actually use her superiority dice now, so I tried to use disarming attack and missed that as well. 2 attempts to disarm this guy, and unfortunately both failed, and it instantly got Shadowheart downed. So as much as I wanted Astarion to be throwing daggers, he actually just ended up throwing health potions for almost the entire fight. Krieg was doing some pretty sweet damage with his Salami build, and I went for another command, and I decided to upcast it as a level 2 spell this time. So I used command halt and failed on both counts, which got Shadowheart instantly killed. Astarion just kept chucking potions because that was really all he could do to help us stay in the fight. Shadowheart's spiritual weapon actually was pretty helpful, and we finally managed to get down to just 1 goblin and surrounded him, and we finally took him out with a slapping of meat and wood. I found a game changer in the shop. I found a Ring of Flinging, which makes thrown weapons do 1d4 more damage. So I gave it to Astarion so he can use it for his dagger throwing. We also hit level 4 at this point, so I gave the Athlete feat to Krieg so he can jump really far. I gave Tavern Brawler to Lae'zel so that she can throw javelins now, is what I'm thinking. But what happened is I saw how much damage it did when I threw the javelins, and I decided that I needed to make a little bit more of a shift in my character's builds. But I decided I would wait until after the hag fight. I gave Shadowheart the Magic Initiate Druid feat so that she could get this Shillelagh spell and enchant her weapon. And with that, we headed in to go after the hag. The javelins were doing a ton of damage, and Astarion's dagger throws were no joke either. It's just that he doesn't have strength, so throwing weapons isn't really the best way to go. But honestly, until this point, I was kind of just scrambling and just doing whatever I could possibly do. I hadn't really put a ton of thought into builds, so now I'm going to actually, after the hag, do a little bit of adjustments so that my characters make more sense. Also, I slapped Lae'zel with my meat so I could get the curse off of Krieg, because he was taking psychic damage every turn until he dealt damage. I made the mistake of throwing a candle into these noxious fumes because apparently when you do that, they just keep exploding forever. So I'm hitting F8 on that one. To get down to the hag, I used a scroll of Featherfall that I had and put us all into turn mode and jumped everybody down individually. When the fight started, I just started like normal. I started chucking shields, and it actually was great because they did bludgeoning damage even if I missed the attack, so it dispelled the illusion. When the hag tried to hide as Mayrina, I just looked at the examine and it had all of her abilities and features right there, so you know exactly which one it is. And if that wasn't enough, she also just came up and punched me right after saying, "Oh, help me, please." So she's not very good at pretending. I didn't actually notice this until I was editing the video, but the real Mayrina is visibly pregnant and Ethel is not, which is really cool. It's a really fun detail in the examine page. My Salami Clubs have the concussive smash ability, and I came in with a big one. I got a critical hit and dazed her. As is tradition, we surrounded her and just beat on her from all sides as much as possible. I had Shadowheart use Invoke Duplicity, so we had advantage on all of our attacks, and I tried to take her down as quickly as possible, hopefully before she could make any more obnoxious clones. But I wasn't quite fast enough, and she did manage to make a whole slew of more clones, and she turned invisible. But when she turned invisible, the camera moved to right where she was, and you could see her just cackling, just laughing right there. So again, not very sneaky. I threw a caustic bulb at her new location to cover it in acid and reveal her. Then I pulled a great axe out of my inventory and chucked it straight out of my inventory at her face, and it knocked her prone, which is perfect because then all my attacks have advantage. So I had Lae'zel hit her with some flaming salami, which killed her and also exploded Lae'zel just a little bit. Mayrina had agreed to give her baby to the hag in exchange for resurrecting her husband, but her husband being resurrected ended up being like a full zombie version of him. So I went ahead and took the summoning wand. So I have a zombie friend now that I can summon in combat if I want to. Spoiler alert, I forget for the rest of the video. I was wandering around just looting stuff and I managed to stumble right into an ambush. This guy was ready to shoot a fireball at me and there was still a couple of explosive barrels nearby, so it wouldn't be in my best interest. So
Confusion!
I shouted confusion at him, and that seemed to do the trick. He was wondering what was gonna happen next, so I told him.
My axe is thirsty! I'm taking you with me!
Let's say I'd rather not fight then.
So he let me into their secret base, and then I had to convince the boss lady.
What's your business down here? Answer honestly and maybe we'll kill you clean.
I'm here to shank and smile!
Big words. Still. Takes steel to swagger in here.
Unfortunately for her, she's part of an organization that has no problem with hurting innocents, so Krieg was pretty interested in slaughtering all of them. And let me go ahead and clear something up about Krieg's motivation. It's not so much that he is trying to rid the world of anybody that's willing to hurt the innocent. The psychotic side of Krieg pretty much just wants to kill anybody, but the sane side of Krieg wants to fight as hard as he can to make sure that they don't hurt anybody who doesn't deserve to be hurt. With that cleared up, I'm gonna go ahead and continue missing in absolutely outrageous amounts of attempts to have Lae'zel push this guy off the cliff. 3 different attempts, all failed. Love it. The fight wasn't particularly hard though. Shadowheart finished one of them off. Lae'zel finally got a successful push to finish another, and Krieg shoved the last one off to finish the fight. I went ahead and took my prize, which was an absolutely insane amount of Smokepowder barrels, and I'm gonna be able to put all of those to extremely good use. Trust me. It's finally time to respec my characters and get them some builds that actually make sense. I don't want to completely butcher the origin characters' builds, so I'm going to keep them all based on their original, but for Shadowheart, I switched her from Trickery Domain over to War Domain so she can make multiple swings. For Lae'zel, I don't really want to talk about it because I'm actually taking her out of the party soon. For Astarion, I added a single multi-class point into Monk because now that makes it so that Salami count as monk weapons, so they use his dexterity instead of his strength. I continued adventuring and I came across Karlach. Karlach is a barbarian who actually just seems really cool, and I like her more than Lae'zel. I don't know if that gets me hate or love or both. I'll take both. I didn't feel like going back and respecking at this exact moment, so I decided to go take on one more fight before bringing Karlach into the party. I found a bunch of gnolls that were ambushing some humans, and I didn't really care that much about the humans necessarily, but look at how nicely packed all of these gnolls are. It looks like all it would take is a single void bulb to pull them all together. And guess who just came into a whole bunch of spark powder barrels? I did. I just found a whole bunch of spark powder barrels. So I had Astarion just slowly move them right into the middle of the clump and then move back for safety before throwing some alchemist's fire. Beautiful. I only used 2 barrels, but it really did the job more than enough. And leaving an enemy alive gave Lae'zel a chance to actually participate in her final fight. So we're saying goodbye to Lae'zel and we're bringing Karlach into the party. And Karlach is going to be an Eagle Heart Barbarian, which allows her to both use the diving strike to jump from a high place down to a low place and do a ton of damage. I gave her Tavern Brawler so that she can throw javelins. And when she's in rage, she can actually use a bonus action to use dash, which means that those boots of electricity are perfect for her. So I switched her fully over to the person that throws things because Astarion is now a Salami monk. And we got to try our powers out right away because I threw some poop right in this goblin's face. He completely deserved it too. Karlach shoved some guy off of her high ground location because she's always going to want high ground with her build. I had Astarion work his way into a flanking position. Now let's check out Karlach's first spear throw and see how it goes. That did 20 damage. That's amazing. Astarion's job is pretty much to try and find low enemies and use his attacks to take them out and turn invisible. And obviously Krieg is just slapping everybody with his meat as much as he possibly can. Astarion can technically strike 5 times in a turn by using his flurry of blows twice because he has 2 bonus actions because he's 3 points into rogue. So he has the thief subclass, which gives him an extra bonus action. Now that Karlach actually has some lightning charges built up, she's going to be able to do even more damage with her spear throws. She just 100 to 0'd that guy, 33 damage in a single throw, while Astarion continues to just work his way around, finishing off anything that's low. It's honestly going so well that Krieg couldn't help himself. He had to play a little ditty on the drums to celebrate, and honestly, the intrusive thoughts are always going to win. I had to absolutely play. And I got guidance for it so I could make sure that my performance would be incredible.
Box cover! Box cover! I'm the one who eats the stardom. I'm the hero of all the villains. You can't swallow my morality like a lollipop pill. I'll run around your mind and set the world record with my meat sweets.
A bunch of goblins showed up, and apparently they weren't here to listen to my performance, which was messed up, so I guess I'm gonna have to kill all of them. It's their own fault. They didn't want to listen to my amazing music. This guy was straight up suicidal, though. Instead of trying to run away, he just yeeted the whole bridge down and killed himself. I don't know what the play was there, but I guess he did some damage, so good job. I finally decided to use some of the illithid worms that I have to give myself more accuracy on each first hit and the ability to turn a hit into a critical strike. And I found a game changer for Karlach, which is a throwable pike that returns automatically. I bought it from a goblin merchant, and now I'm going to use it to slaughter all of the goblins, including that merchant. I destroyed these ladders first so that they would have no way to get up to me, and since my pike is going to come back every time, I'm not going to ever run out of throwable weapons, so it's perfect. On my first throw, they didn't even know what hit them. Like, actually, it one-shot the guy and they were just like, I don't know where anything is. On my second throw, they did manage to figure out that there was a fight on their hands. But again, there's no way for them to get up to me because I destroyed the two ladders. I guess they could try to go super roundabout, but I just don't think the AI is smart enough to do that. And this pike is so strong. It does a ton of damage. However, it does actually put it back into Karlach's hands when it returns, so I do need to unequip it every time because I'm not allowed to use any weapons other than throwing them, salami, or a salami equivalent. Also, something pretty fun about throwing weapons is that for some reason the game counts it as an unarmed strike, which means that every single time I throw one, I get 2 lightning charges from the gloves because I moved the entire lightning build over to Karlach when I switched her to the full thrown weapons specialist. It took a while for the whole camp to get into the fight, but they finally realized I was over here murdering all of their friends, and they got into the fight as well. So I got my friends involved too. Astarion was just sneaking around invisible most of the time. I had Krieg just kind of standing on the balcony so that he would be bait because the enemies otherwise didn't really know where to go because they couldn't get to Karlach. And something that's one of the biggest things that makes Karlach's throwing build so strong is the percent chance to hit. It's almost always 95%. And then even when I miss, if I have high ground, the weapon still does bludgeoning damage because it's just falling. I thought that Astarion would be safe as long as he could get a kill every single turn, but I guess they made some improvements to NPC's ability to detect people that are in stealth, but we'll have to get back to that right after Krieg throws this smoke powder bomb and absolutely annihilates all of their reinforcements. Amazing. So good. I love these bombs. It's so good. This game is so good. I love it. But this big guy apparently has a sense hidden presence thing that can find you if you're invisible, which seems kind of dumb a little bit, but that's fine. It's better than them having no idea what to do when you stealth, I think. I guess I would prefer them to have at least some ability to fight back. But since he didn't kill Astarion, I was able to get another killing blow, and this time I used Cunning Action Dash to get more movement speed and just ran really, really far away, so hopefully he won't find me. Okay, I want to talk some numbers for just a sec, because the way that the damage is adding up on these throwables is not correct.
Uh-oh, math. Hope we don't pop a blood vessel.
The piercing damage calculation looks fine. It has my D10, it has my strength, it has rage, all good. The lightning has a 1d4 added to it, and I think it's because of the throwing ring that I have, but I don't think it's supposed to do a d4, and I especially don't think the 1d8 is supposed to add an extra 1d4. I think that my ring that increases my throwing damage is increasing the damage of every single lightning proc to far more than it's supposed to be. I don't know for sure, but I think it's doing it. I think it's doing way too much, and it's like maybe a bug.
See the numbers, taste the violence.
Because remember, Karlach is wearing the boots that allow her to get lightning charges on dash. She's wearing wearing the gloves that give her lightning charges on unarmed attacks, which is counting for throws, and she's wearing the ring, which increases her throwing damage. She's literally just butchering people, and it's not going to stop. This build is by far the strongest of all of the character builds that I've put together. It's not even close, the amount of damage that she pumps out. I cleaned up the rest of the goblins with a javelin throw, and by having Krieg go up into the tower and just throw this guy out of it, which I thought was kind of fun to do. And then I had Karlach skewer him with her pike throw, but the camera got all weird, so I didn't see it happen. Who knows who did it?
What's your business?
Kill the little man! Your family is next!
You what? You cheeky bastard!
Well, I thought we could maybe deny it, but Krieg gave it all away, so we might as well blow our way into the goblin camp. Okay, there's a little bit of collateral damage on that one, but it was worth it. I really like having the Eagle Heart raged because Karlach can just yeet herself into combat anytime she wants from her high ground location. And it can knock enemies prone, which makes it easier for my party members to follow up with more attacks. I went for a long rest before taking on the rest of the camp, and we have extra Salami at this point, so we are all decked out with Salami. And this guy came into my camp, and if you don't like blades near eyeballs, you maybe will skip forward 30 seconds now.
My friend! How do you fare? Time to make some head wounds!
Willow slowly brings the ice pick closer to your eye.
Now, why aren't you stabbing me? Don't move. Do you feel that? I feel it all!
Ha! I think we have the blighter on the run.
I like this bite!
Your eye plops down into the mud.
Take this. A far superior relic to that old jelly you were chained to.
I'm so happy I could kill you!
My new magic eye can see invisible things, so I call that a win. So we headed into the rest of the goblin camp and started by throwing some stuff up at the chandelier to knock it down, and we came for one more chandelier on the back end as well. It didn't actually do as much damage as I was hoping it was going to do, but it still seemed like it was a pretty fun start to the fight, so I'm good with it. Asterion stuck with the usual, sneaking around, killing enemies and getting his invisibility so he wasn't targetable. Karlach was just dropping bombs on people with javelins. Shadowheart was approaching, trying to use Shillelagh so she could get some extra damage from her meat. But this is my first run of the game, and I didn't actually know that the enemy could just yeet these statues down on top of me. I did have resistance to bludgeoning damage when it happened, so I didn't take too much, but it was pretty awesome to see the NPCs interacting with the environment like that. Despite their good plays, I still took them down without too much trouble. The next goblin enemy, I just went ahead and shoved into this spider pit, and he did a pretty good job of fighting off the spiders, but with me able to just throw things at him from up above while he was trying to deal with them, it made the fight pretty easy. I wanted to throw a javelin, but the trajectory for the throw wasn't right, so I did a hand axe instead, which is kind of cool. There's different trajectories for different weapons. Because of the lightning stacks and my ability to use dash to get even more of them, Karlach can still do a ton of damage with her spear throws, even if she doesn't have high ground. The damage calculation has to be wrong. I really feel like it's got to be wrong. I thought this was just funny. I went up and attacked this guy's cage and then just insta-died, and I still don't know why. If you know why, you should tell me. And then the cage was all glitchy. I don't know what's going on. I showed up to save Halsin, but he kind of saved himself by just yeeting the cage door down and then absolutely slaughtering his captors. And with that, we are now at level 5, which means Krieg gets an extra attack, so he can hit people 3 times with Salami. We have Shadowheart gaining access to some 3rd level cleric spells, which hopefully will be helpful. I was able to bring Asterion up to level 4 in Rogue, and I took the mobile feat so that he would just be a highly mobile attacker who just goes everywhere he needs to go trying to finish off low targets. And Karlach as a barbarian also got access to the extra attack feat, which with those spear throws is really just insane. She's just cranking out damage. I can't emphasize that enough. It really feels satisfying to play. But a word of warning, I noticed that sometimes the spear throws, for some reason, didn't give me experience when they got the kill. I don't know exactly what caused it, so I kind of got in the habit of just quick saving before throwing a spear. I think it happens when the bludgeoning damage from the spear falling gets the hit rather than the actual spear damage. But since I had already fought the fight fairly and won, and I didn't want to do it again, I just exploded the phase spider on my re-attempt so that I would just have to so it would just be way easier. And I did get experience on the spear throw this time, so I don't know exactly what it is, but I guess just watch out for that. It really didn't happen very often though. The phase spider was the only enemy I noticed it happening on. I went back and looked at a lot of the footage of the spear throw kills. I think I just got a little paranoid after it happened on the phase spider. Maybe it was just because the phase spider was so big. Maybe when the spear tried to return back to me, it did damage that it wasn't supposed to do, and so it didn't count. I don't know, but most of the time I've gotten experience for the throws, so I don't think I'm behind or anything like that. I was kind of just casually exploring the Underdark, and then I got an autosave that came in, and I was like, oh, what's this gonna be? I have no idea. Oh no. Just yeeted straight off the cliff. I didn't even know what to do with myself. I was like, that's great. That's amazing. So that's the first Revivify scroll that I had to use in the Underdark. And now it's time for a long rest.
On your feet. She might still be out there.
I promised I'd be back. Don't worry. I have things under control. You must discover the source of the magic that controls the parasites. Go. Our freedom depends on it.
I probably should have learned my lesson the first time I was casually exploring the Underdark, but I did not. And I was just throwing weapons at all of these mushrooms to destroy them. And I clicked to throw one there, but my character didn't have line of sight and took off running. And before I even reacted, it was done. This was fresh after a rest. All my characters were at full health, perfectly topped off, and this happens.
Boom!
Amazing. Shadowheart just yeeted straight off the cliff by that explosive mushroom. And she was very dramatic about her revive too. She's really showboaty about it, if you ask me. You know, I really should have learned my lesson about just casually exploring the Underdark, but for some reason I decided to have Krieg just kind of wander off on his own somewhere that nobody else could jump to.
No! No, 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 no! No, to scrape your face from my fingernails! Let me hear those screams!
So Krieg found himself in a 1v spectator fight in which he started the first round surprised, so it really wasn't looking good for him. There was no way for me to get my party there on short notice because they just can't jump the gap. Krieg has the athlete feat, so he can jump way further than they can. But the darkness spell that they cast on me probably saved my life because the spectator ended up wasting a turn trying to work its way around the darkness. While I was trying to work my party members around, I found this treasure again and had to fight him off with the 3 of them before we could actually get to the spectator fight. Lucky for me, there is a little bit of high ground I can use, so Karlach is going to get some extra damage from her javelin throws. And I had Shadowheart use Shillelagh before entering the fight so that hopefully she would have all of her actions when she got there, but I guess I didn't wait long enough because she didn't have her bonus action. I dipped my dual-wielded Salami in fire and went for some swings and didn't really come out very well. So I went for a couple of unarmed attacks, and I am just not doing very much to this thing with Astarion. But Karlach, on the other hand, is still hitting like a truck. She did 50 damage in a single turn. And that's without even getting critical strikes or anything. That's just raw damage that she has a 95% chance of landing because her chance to hit is so high. I had Shadowheart come in with a command halt, and wouldn't you know it, I actually managed to get one to land. Finally, command halt hasn't just been a waste of a turn in a spell slot. It did have a 65% chance against this guy versus the 45 to 55 against a lot of other attempts, but it gave us a chance to try and take this thing down in a single turn if possible. And realistically, it's just Karlach trying to take it out in a single turn. Because Karlach's 2 throws did 63 damage this time. So I just needed Shadowheart and Astarion to do 36 damage between the 2 of them, which wasn't really possible unless I brought some more Smokepowder bombs into the mix. So I had Shadowheart throw a Smokepowder bomb to get some good damage down. And then because she's a War Cleric now, I could use my bonus action for a Shillelagh hit, and I got a critical strike, which is huge. I went for a flurry of blows with Astarion, but it brought it down to 7, and I was kind of skeptical about whether 7 would be able to finish it. I went for a vampire bite to see if that would help, and I only got it down to 5, so I decided to just go for the Smokepowder bomb to finish it off, because I don't want this thing to take a turn. I don't know what it can do, but I now still don't know what it can do, because it never got to try, other than when it yeeted Krieg straight off the cliff. But now we're all in position to go after this spectator.
Slice your eyelids so you can watch the end.
Krieg has a ring now that gives his attacks 2 bonus acid damage every time he gets a hit, which is really nice, especially since he can hit 3 times per turn, so that is potentially an extra 6 damage a turn. Shadowheart was inspired from that last command and upcast it as a level 2 spell, and she got 1 but failed on the spectator. Karlach just is dropping bombs from up on the cliffside. I used this candle to cook up my salami so I could give the spectator a unique culinary experience with some acid and some fire all in one beautiful meaty strike. I asked Krieg if I needed to add anything to my salami recipe, and he said,
Salt! Good God, where's my salt?
Alright, let me know if you guys see any salt, because I don't know where it is, and Krieg definitely doesn't know where it is. The spectator had 39 health left, and I went for a really big spear throw, and managed to hit for 34 on my first attack. So I went with my second attack and finished off the spectator. This fight wasn't super exciting, but it was funny. I got a critical miss on the spear throw, but it still knocked Bernard off the edge and did 39 damage from falling. I headed down to the lake and I cast Sanctuary on Krieg before throwing him into the fight, so none of the enemies could do anything. I was surprised and lost a turn, but it didn't matter. I opened up with a Smokepowder bomb from Shadowheart, which destroyed the ladder that went up to us, and I destroyed the ladder manually with Krieg on the other side, so all of these zombies can't really get up to us. They can't jump, so there's nothing they could do. Karlach shoved that guy into the drink, so he's gone. All of the zombies climbed up that ladder that was on fire, and the ladder broke after that turn, so they all ended up stranded on the middle floor, which I just thought was really funny. So once we finished everybody else off, we all went onto the middle floor and beat them down as well. I saw something shiny in this mushroom field and I went after it, but there's a torch over in the corner there, so if you set off the field, it makes the whole thing explode, which I just thought was cool. I just think this game is cool. I just really like a lot of the things they put in it.
Poured into flames! Not fast enough!
This goofy mushroom guy thought that he could betray his squad, but he provoked all the opportunity attacks from my party members at once. Let's go ahead and see that again. And then we finished him off. I've been saving something special for the last encounter of this video.
What easy prey you make. Why shouldn't I run you through this instant?
Meat!
You are a waste of flesh.
My flesh is forever!
It's my ogre family from earlier in the video. I blew the horn and called them into battle to help me take out this patrol. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't expect to get butchered as much as I did with the ogres here helping me. I didn't really take this fight that seriously because I hadn't been having a hard time with very much, but this one's definitely quite a bit more difficult than the rest.
I can't even feel a knife in my spine.
And it's especially hard without any armor because most of my characters get hit by everything by default, but even Krieg, who has unarmored defense, was getting hit pretty consistently by almost every attack. I don't know if that's unlucky or if these guys just have a really high chance to hit. I would have needed to play the fight completely differently if I wanted to take it out without the help from these ogres. I also didn't really want to let the ogres die. I don't know, I just felt like if they died, that was not good. So I played a little bit more aggressively than I think I should have in this situation if I had known that my enemies were going to be this strong. My enemies were also pretty ruthless too. They did not hesitate to absolutely finish off any of my downed party members. I don't really know why, but I kind of just ran Asterion up here even though he had no actions or bonus actions and just let him die, basically. But if there's one theme from this video that has been very, very locked in, it's that this is the Karlach show.
And I will win Best Supporting Actor!
Because this spear throwing build is insane. So even with everybody down, as long as Karlach is still up, the fight is very winnable. Thankfully, the ogres managed to just barely survive with enough health, and Asterion got absolutely slaughtered by this guy, but It's okay, because there's definitely revenge on the way. Karlach went and cleaned up the rest of the fight for my squad, and when she was done killing all the enemies, she even was kind enough to toss a health potion all the way from the top down to Krieg.
Say thank you.
Nipple salads!
Close enough.
The deal is done.
Get styled upon!
I really hope you enjoyed this video. I worked really hard on it, and I don't know if this is a general video concept that people are interested in, so we'll see. I'm also planning on making some Baldur's 3 content that's more focused on ridiculous strategies and cheesing the game and less focused on roleplay. But if people really like this concept, then I'll do both. And if you made it all the way to here in the video, then I just have one last thing to say to you.
It's strangling time!
No, that's not it. It's the other one.
Insurance fraud!
No, Krieg, it's the other one.
Love you.
There we go. By the way, I think you'll enjoy this video next, but the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll enjoy this one next. So I guess you have to watch both to figure out who's right?